It's 4:30 in the morning, and already the Hare Krishna children are chanting their homage to the deity. These are the first-generation Krishna Kids. Australian children, born and raised in an Indian culture, a culture 5,000 years old.
Gurukul was good because it was fun. We read Krishna book every day, which was really good because it reminds you of all the stories. And then we'd go to the river and we'd play, and we wouldn't just, play boring games. We'd play like we were cowherd boys, and, there was Agasura, and that was a Yamuna, and we had the Govardhan Hill, and we'd get little rocks and paint them up like shalagrams, put tilak on them, and, everything kind of related.
Australian children, born and raised in an Indian culture, a culture 5,000 years old. Transplanted here to the lush green hills of Murwillumbah on the far north coast of New South Wales.
Asrupuna collectionam Visitantam midam vakyam Uvacha madhusadanaha Asrupuna collectionam Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. They're Aussie kids, in as much that they got, 2 arms, 2 legs, so they're the normal Aussie kid. But I see them as unique in as much that already these children are making tangible spiritual advancement, whereas the rest of the young population within Australia are actually becoming more and more immersed in material life.
I think the small details are what's really important, little things, not so much the, Bhagavatam class every day. That's important, don't get me wrong. But little things like wearing a sari, that really helps. Just, being constantly reminded that you're a devotee. And the fun, for a girl, it's really the culture. Looking pretty, wearing saris, wearing kajal, wearing gopi dots on festival days. We have the best time dressing up in our gopi skirts and, being gopis for Krishna and stuff like that. It's so fun, and plays.
It's a bit like a young tree or shrub. When it's planted, you quite often see people put a small fence around it like that. And by virtue of that initial protection, the tree grows, and its maturity is very strong, and it's able to give shade and shelter to many people.
I think it sets the tone for when you're older. It makes things more real, rather than when you just join and read the books and it's all kind of set out for you. Growing up, you experience it, you grow with the stories, and when you go to India and you see, Govardhan Hill and, the Yamuna River, it's real. It's not just like, this is the river.
The singing and dancing goes on for at least 3 hours every morning. And when it's over, there's still more chanting. Each day, the parents must chant the Hare Krishna mantra 16 times on each of the 108 sacred beads they all carry. Who can tell me who Krishna is?
God. The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Can you say that again?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Well, I definitely know where I want to end up. I want to end up in Vrindavan in a white sari in a little hut doing some kind of service. And, that's my goal. It's funny, most people, they just work towards accumulating things, and when they're old, they just leave it all. I mean, sure, I want to accumulate things. I want to be, materially satisfied, but I know that when I leave, I'm not going to take it with me, and I hope I'm Krishna conscious enough to renounce it all, before the final moment. I think that is a really valuable thing that we learnt from Gurukul.
So these children, then, are the results of that dovetailing for Krishna. For them, quite naturally, there's no thought of anything but the Hare Krishna lifestyle.
My dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you?
What are the things that Krishna teaches you?
Teaches you to be Krishna conscious. Yes.
What does that mean?
Chanting and dancing and glorifying the Lord.
And you, all your life, you want to serve Krishna. That's what you want to do, isn't it?
Nothing else.
You may be pretty or may be intelligent or whatever, but if you can use it in Krishna's service, then it'll help. Otherwise, it's just so temporary. I mean, this life is just, it's so short. teachings are going to really help me when I have children, because that's when I've got to set an example. Now it's easy for me to be slack, but then it's just that you don't have a choice. You have to, you know, be the way you want your children to be, because otherwise they don't really have anybody to look up to. And it's in day-to-day life too. It's having pictures of Krishna in your house, having the deities, you know, offering everything you eat, cooking. Cooking is really important to me. I think Prabhupada really stressed that girls should know how to cook. And it's true. I mean, every day I cook for my husband, and that's...
There seems to be a certain place for a woman here to hold. There seems to be very clear divisions. Women here, men over there. A sort of a segregation. Women who have fought for liberation would say, this is not equality.
A man can't have a baby, so there's not equality there. There's actually not material equality, and a woman's position is actually to serve a man. And we find it very satisfying, you know, to serve our husbands in that way.
My daily schedule would be something like getting up pretty early, going to Mangalati, which is at 4:30 in the morning, and then chanting as much as I can, try and get 16 rounds chanted early. And then there's class, Bhagavatam class, which is a sloka from the Bhagavatam. And then there's greeting the deities, which is really sweet, because the deities are dressed fresh in the morning, and the Govindam praise song is really pretty. That's one of my favorite times. And then I'll cook breakfast, usually, for my husband. Clean the house, just the general things.
13 years ago, we met the Krishna Kids, a bold experiment to bring up Aussie children in an alien culture.
I learned a lot in Gurukul, even just simple things like wearing a sari every day. I mean, that's pretty hard for most people that join, but when you grow up with it, it's just like second nature. We learned to cook, we learned to sew, we learned to make garlands, we learned to do all the feminine arts. Every day we'd pick huge buckets of flowers and make pretty garlands. That was really fun. And still, I love to do that. I like making garlands. We learned to serve people too, which is nice. We learned to, a lot of people don't really know how to serve prasadam when you have people over. There's an art to it.
I don't consider it a religion, I consider it my life. It's definitely a strong part of me that'll never change.
Tonight on 60 Minutes.
Gurukul's important because it gives you a basis, it gives you something to look back on and start with. You know, you've got everything, all the philosophies inside you, and even though, you know, sometimes you may forget it, and, you know, it's hard to always try and remember Krishna or do the right thing, but when you have the basis, when you've had that many classes and read, you know, been read that many Krishna stories, and, you know, you've cooked that many feasts and made that many garlands, it just helps because it's within you. It's not so much a superficial thing, I think, for a lot of Gurukulis.
Who can tell me who Krishna is?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Chandra, too, was a model pupil. What she learnt on the farm as a little Krishna girl, she took very seriously. Those were happy years?
Yeah, as a child I loved it. Come on, who else gets to wear beautiful saris and wear jewellery and be encouraged to wear flowers in our hair and have fun all the time? Of course, it was great. Felt very special, actually, when I'd see other children coming from outside, and I always wanted to share it with them. I don't consider it a religion, I consider it my life. It's definitely a strong part of me that'll never change. And I loved it. What can I say? From the first time I ever came to the temple, I didn't want to leave, and that's the truth.
Krishna's, it's very real. It's a reality. It's not a facade for a lot of Gurukul children. You'll find that when Gurukulis sing bhajans to Krishna, it's very real because it's really coming from their hearts. They have a certain closeness to Krishna that I think takes a long time for people to develop.
It's all about controlling the senses. That's what Krishna consciousness means. You control your tongue, your genital, your touch. If you can control all the senses, then you can control anything.
I think the main thing for people for devotees is to be able to preach and to be able to share it, because if you can't share it, then it's pretty selfish. You've got to be able to show everyone what you know, and I think for Gurukul children it's especially important because we've really been given a head start to everybody else.
Chandra, why do you think so many of your class, the class that we filmed, why do you think so many left? Only 3 stayed.
Because their parents left when they were very young. They didn't have a chance to exploit Krishna consciousness like I did. You have a look in that class. Most of them, their parents left. The very few stayed.
So how do you want to give it to your children? How do you want to give Krishna consciousness to your kids?
For a start off camera, I don't think I'll send them to Gurukul.
No, but how would you do it then? Look at the camera and tell me.
Well, I want them to wear dhotis and saris every day. I want them to have, Krishna book stories every night for bed. I want them to learn right from the beginning how to do deity worship, how to cook, how to chant mantras, how to, the Brahma Samhita, all the different songs. I want them to learn to give class, to play mridanga, to play harmonium, to lead kirtan, just all those things that make you feel proud to be a devotee. If you have devotional skills, then you can really have pride in yourself.
Will you stay with the Hare Krishnas?
I pray that I will. I pray that nothing happens to change my mind, because I definitely want to always.
If you have children, will you want them to become Hare Krishnas?
Definitely, of course. Don't you want what's best for your children?
Sure.